The worst insult I ever heard as a Jew didn't come from a neo-Nazi rally, a hostile university campus, or some dark corner of the internet. It wasn't shouted across a street or whispered behind my back at a dinner party. It came in the form of a well-intentioned, saccharine-coated compliment from someone who, I'm convinced, thought they were doing me a favor. "You don't look Jewish." Ah, yes, the ultimate backhanded compliment that manages to pack centuries of stereotypes, a sprinkle of ignorance, and a generous helping of condescension into 4 words. It rolls off the tongue as if it's a prize to be won, a distinction of honor, as if I should beam with pride at the thought of having somehow bypassed the ancient genetic lottery that graced my ancestors with their Jewish features. The first time I heard it, I was too young and unprepared to respond with anything other than an awkward laugh. I think I said thank you. Thank you. Imagine that. I thanked someone for erasing my heritage in real time. But the second time, I was ready. I responded with the only thing sharper than the blade of ignorance: sarcasm. Wow, that's such a relief. I was worried people would mistake me for someone who invented monotheism and survived centuries of exile. Dodged a bullet there. Of course, sarcasm rarely lands as intended. I got the polite laugh, the shift in eye contact, the sudden realization that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the kind of compliment I was supposed to appreciate. What makes this insult the worst isn't just the casual perpetuation of anti-Semitic tropes: the big nose, the curly hair, the swarthy complexion. It's the deeper implication that to be visibly Jewish is somehow undesirable, something to escape from or disguise. It suggests that assimilation is the gold standard, that the less ethnic we appear, the closer we come to some imagined ideal of acceptability. But here's the thing. I want to look Jewish. I want the world to see my grandfather's stubborn nose, my mother's curls, the reflection of generations who fought to preserve a culture that wasn't meant to survive. I want my appearance to be a living reminder that we're still here, thriving, despite everything history has hurled at us. To tell a Jew they don't look Jewish is to deny the resilience that shaped our people. It's a subtle erasure, wrapped in the guise of praise, a testament to how deeply the fear of standing out runs through the veins of diaspora communities. This insult is insidious because it reflects a broader narrative that has been whispered throughout history. Blend in, don't make waves, survive by being invisible. It's the same sentiment that led Jews in medieval Europe to wear hats that distinguished them from their Christian neighbors. The same sentiment that drove Jews in 20th century America to change their surnames, flatten their accents, and straighten their curls. It's survival by conformity. But conformity is exhausting. And more importantly, it's not a victory. Each time a Jew is praised for not looking Jewish, it chips away at the pride we should feel in our identity. It reinforces the idea that being Jewish is something to be hidden, not celebrated. I often think about my ancestors when this topic arises. My great-grandmother, who survived pogroms by the skin of her teeth, never had the luxury of hiding her Jewishness. Her face, her language, her customs all screamed Jew to anyone who crossed her path. And yet, she wore it proudly. I think about the generations before her, the ones who carried Torah scrolls on their backs as they fled persecution, the ones who recited prayers in secret, not because they were ashamed, but because their survival depended on it. What would they think if they heard someone say, "You don't look Jewish," to their descendants? Would they laugh? Would they weep? Or would they shake their heads at the absurdity of a world that still believes Jewish can be reduced to a set of physical traits? I sometimes wonder if the people who offer this compliment have ever stopped to consider what Jewish actually looks like. After all, we come in every shade, from the deep brown of Ethiopian Jews to the olive tones of Mizrahim to the pale skin of Ashkenazim. We have straight hair, curly hair, no hair at all. Our features are as diverse as the lands we've traversed over thousands of years. Perhaps the real insult isn't the assumption that I don't look Jewish, but the ignorance of Jewish diversity altogether. To not know what Jewish looks like is to ignore the beauty of our global tapestry. It is to erase the Mizrahi Jews of Iraq and Yemen, the Indian Jews of Cochin, the Kaifeng Jews of China. It is to pretend that Jewishness is a monolith, as if one face could ever encapsulate an entire people. At its core, this insult betrays a fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to be Jewish. Jewish identity isn't defined by the slope of a nose or the kink of a curl. It's defined by history, memory, and community. It's the echo of Hebrew prayers, the taste of matzo ball soup, the melody of an old Yiddish lullaby. It's something that runs far deeper than appearances, something that cannot be so easily erased by a careless remark. So the next time someone tells me I don't look Jewish, I'll respond with the truth. That's funny, because I feel incredibly Jewish. And I do. I feel Jewish when I buy halal for Shabbat, when I read the Passover story, and when I walk the ancient streets of Jerusalem. I feel Jewish when I explain to friends overseas why I don't eat bread during Passover or why Yom Kippur is spent in synagogue. I feel Jewish when I mourn the victims of October 7th, when I walk through the makeshift Hamas tunnel at the hostages and missing square in Tel Aviv.